So what do we have on tap today? Well, I want to work on the first couple steps of the start and then progress into longer accelerations. So for the first couple sprints today, I'm going to be wearing a weight vest, 8 pounds. Now in my warm-up, I wore a slightly heavier weight vest just to sort of get, acquainted with how it felt. But as I get into the workout, I'm going to do a couple starts to 10 meters with an 8-pound weight vest. Then I'll take the weight vest off and then probably go 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and that should be the workout. Before and after the workout, I'm doing some stiff leg hops, really focusing on as short a ground contact time as possible, really stiff, knee and ankle joints, so very little bending at the knee and ankle, and I'm really trying to get off the ground as quickly as possible. And I think for all you out there, in your jump training, one thing you can think about is, instead of thinking about jumping, think about bouncing, and focus your jump training on bouncing. If you're a sprinter, other than the first few steps of the sprint, most of what we do is going to be at a pretty long leg length where our knee is not very bent and we're not spending a lot of time on the ground. So, if you want to get the most out of jump training, you want to focus on bouncing with minimal amortization, minimal yielding in your joints. And if you do that, I think you have a much better opportunity at improving than if all you do is try to jump for maximum displacement. Now, that doesn't mean we don't train for displacement. We still do power cleans, squats, box jumps, things where we are trying to displace the body as high as possible. But that doesn't always need to be the goal of your jump training. So just keep that in mind. I'm doing some of that mixed in with these sprints. Tomorrow I'll do a lift, but for now, we're focusing on sprinting. So let's get into the workout. All right, so I've done a couple of the sprints with the weight vest. Felt pretty good. I noticed that, my adductor feels a little better. My left hamstring was sort of not tightening up on me, but I could just tell that it was a little bit overstressed the last time I ran. So when I did these weight vest sprints, I was really just focusing on, relaxing through them. With an 8-pound weight vest, I was able to hit 189 to 10 meters. I think my PR is in the low 1.7s, but most of the time I'm running low 1.8s these days. So, it's not that much slower than what I would typically run, and my goal with that is not to run that slow, not have such a high load that I'm slowing down a lot, but just to give sort of an environmental constraint that reminds my body and reminds me to be forceful on the first couple steps. After the first couple steps, it's going to be all reactive and elastic from there. You're not going to be forcing your way through the sprint. But as you launch yourself out of the blocks, you hit that first step, you hit that second step, that's where we have an opportunity to be really forceful. So I'm using the weight vest just to 10 meters so I can work on those first couple steps. And I think after doing that, I felt a little more tuned in to what it feels like to be forceful on the first couple steps. So now as I progress into these other sprints, I'm going to be in a better place to, already have that dialed in, and I can just focus on getting out and then being reactive and elastic throughout the run. The other thing I'm working on today is really trying to have a good acceleration curve. I want to progress each split up till the furthest distance I run, getting faster each split, not going fast, slow as I accelerate. So we'll see what I can do with that, but that's what we're working on right now. So let's get to it. Now, like I said, I was trying to work on getting my acceleration curve to really be, optimized, not fast, slow, or hit top speed too soon. So throughout the whole workout, because of the last couple weeks where I was dealing with some tension in my adductors and hamstrings, I really just wanted to be relaxed today. But I was still running pretty fast. Like in the last 60, I ran 7:01. So it's not like that's super slow relative to my PRs and all that. But I was able to really feel the acceleration curve throughout the whole sprint. And when I looked at the times, sure enough, every split through the 60 was faster. I ran faster at 20 meters than I did at 10, 30 than I did at 20, so on, all the way to where the 50 to 60 split was the fastest. And there was no time within that sprint where I ran slower than the previous split. So, this is really important, because if you can't have a consistent acceleration pattern where you're getting faster every 10 meters, how can you expect to be consistent with performances, So I think that's where the beauty of running at, 98%, 99%, but not really going completely all out, is you can work on these things and dial in things like your acceleration pattern and get it so that your acceleration curve, if you were to graph it out, is a nice curve, not a herky-jerky up and down, sine curve. And if you do that over time, you'll then be able to add more speed to that acceleration curve. But if all you ever do is blast as hard as you can every single time you sprint, the issue you're going to run into is inconsistency. And I think, a key to running fast and doing well is being consistent over time, and also consistent within our sprints. So maybe that's something that you can focus on. Now, one thing that helped me, I think, achieve that was not letting my arm overextend on the backside and get super long. As I got out of the blocks and I started running, I didn't force it, but I tried to make sure that my arm didn't hyperextend on the backside and was more like a 90-degree angle on the backside and the front side. And that allowed for my legs to do their thing and my posture to stay the same. Whereas sometimes I notice if I overextend with my arm on the backside, it makes it harder for my leg to come through, because our legs are counterbalanced by our arms. And so if the arm is lagging back here, then the other leg is going to lag on the backside too. That's going to cause your pelvis to maybe tilt out of position or mess with your posture, which will mess with where you contact on the ground, which will make it harder to be consistent and accelerate evenly and consistently throughout the whole 50, 60 meter distance that you're running. So maybe that's something you can try if you find that you're kind of inconsistent as you accelerate, and you're not accelerating in one continuous acceleration curve where you get faster every 10 meters. Maybe one thing you can do is pay attention to, what are your arms doing? Are they flapping and flailing on the backside and getting way too long? Or are they nice and, not like you're trying to hold them tight. I was still being relaxed mentally and physically and everything, but I wasn't letting them go through too large of a range of motion. Because like I said, if you over push with your foot, your arm's going to overextend. And if you overextend with your arm, you're probably going to over push with your foot. They sort of play back and forth on one another. So maybe that's something that you can pay attention to as you go through your training and you look at your times, or, you can just kind of go by feel. Pay attention to see, are you moving efficiently? Because if you're not moving efficiently, it's going to be hard to move as fast as possible. We don't want to have an imbalance between how our arms and our legs are moving. We don't want to see, a really fast split from 30 to 40, then slow from 40 to 50, then pick it back up after that. We want to see nice, consistent acceleration. And I would focus on building that before trying to build the fastest acceleration possible. If you can stabilize the skill of accelerating consistently over 60 or 70 meters to where you're hitting your fastest times somewhere in that end range of that sprint, that's going to serve you really well for not only the 60, but also the 100 and the 200. If you think about it, say that you run 7:0, just for an easy number, to 60 meters, but you do it working as hard as possible, versus you can get to 7:0 and you do it without working as hard as possible, you're going to have a lot more energy for that last 30 of the race, or the last 130 of the race if it's a 200. So obviously we're going to run faster in competition, or at least try to run faster in competition than we do in practice. But when we're at practice, we're trying to improve our skills, our capabilities. Yes, we're trying to get faster. Yes, we're trying to get stronger and all that. But not every single aspect of practice has to do with some kind of measurable outcome as far as force, power, velocity, and that sort of thing. There are skills, there are soft skills involved with sprinting that we have to nail down if we want to be able to improve over the long run, be consistent, stay healthy, and have the best shot at running the fastest times that we can. There's a time and place to really put the hammer down and run as fast as humanly possible in practice and in competition. But you have to be able to tell, when is your body in a position to do that? Like today I felt almost 100%, so I ran almost 100%. But by doing that, I was able to have that better acceleration curve. And if I can hammer in that skill of accelerating smoothly and evenly, which has always been an issue for me, and I'm able to do that repeatedly over time, and that becomes my new normal, then as I apply more intensity to that, as my, jumps get better, as my lifts get better, whatever it is, then that's where you're gonna start seeing faster times and consistently faster times. If you're not consistent in practice at 98%, how do you expect to be consistent at 100%, And if it's a little bit safer and a little bit easier to get more training volume in at 98%, and you're able to have a higher quality sprint, such as with the acceleration pattern, that's something that I think is worth paying attention to and at least having in your program from time to time. Just like you should have truly all-out sprints in your program from time to time, all-out lifts from time to time, but other times you might be doing a sub-maximal lift, or you might be doing a tempo workout like we talked about in the last video. So just some things to consider, but overall I'd say this was a successful workout. I'm leaving it healthy, happy, feeling good, and I accomplished something with the acceleration curve that is something that has been quite elusive for a long time. So I'm happy to see that, and I really do think it has to do with not worrying as much about the time, letting the time come to me when it's the appropriate moment for the time to come to me, and instead working on being the best skilled sprinter that I can, rather than trying to just chase times and be, using way too much energy, moving all over the track. I'd rather run 7:0, be relaxed and not feel like it tired me out, than run 6:99 and be super tired, have my groin hurt, feel like I was all over the place, So hopefully this resonates with you guys. Hopefully it makes sense. But that's all for now. So I hope you guys have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video, learned something. If not, maybe you will on the next one. But in the meantime, hit a thumbs up, leave a comment below, subscribe if you haven't, hit that bell if you want to be notified, buy a program if you want a program, the jazz. So I'll catch you guys next time. This is Cody Bidlow with sprintingworkouts.com and ATHLETE.X signing off.